I'm Carleen Johnson with another episode of Washington in Focus Daily. It is February the 9th, day 29 of the 60-day legislative session, which means tomorrow is the halfway point. And the income tax bill, once again, front and center in Olympia on this Monday. Senate Bill 6346. Now, this bill took center stage in a Senate Ways and Means Committee hearing last Friday with a lot of testimony. In fact, more people signed in on this piece of legislation in opposition than any other bill in Washington state history, more than 61,000 people. And that was in short order because you may recall the bill was only introduced on Tuesday, and then a public hearing was expedited to take place last Friday the 6th. So we fast forward to today, the bill once again before that same Senate Ways and Means Committee for executive session. But Republicans offered a number of amendments. I think by my count, there were 11 amendments offered. And one was offered by Democrat. The other 10 were offered by Republicans, including an amendment that would basically make the legislation completely null and void without a constitutional amendment. And the reference for this amendment goes back to 1933 when the Washington State Supreme Court ruled that income in the state of Washington is considered property. And because property taxes in the state of Washington are limited to 1%, a graduated income tax, higher rates for higher earners, violates that and is not uniform. So that was one of the amendments offered by Senator Chris Gildon of Puyallup in the Monday Senate Ways and Means Committee. Let's go back for a minute to last Friday because I want to show you a clip. The bill, as I mentioned, the public hearing, 61,000 people signed in. I should note there were about, I think, just ahead of that hearing, there were about 15,000 people signed in support. So there were dozens of people that testified on both sides of it. The bill was given 2 full hours for hearing, which is very unusual. So I want to show you a clip here. This is going to be Let's Go Washington's founder, Brian Haywood, who testified in opposition. And this clip is him basically saying, yeah, I'm about to get a hit from the millionaire's tax in the state of Washington. But here's why, in addition to that, I'm so opposed. So here's that clip.
Yes, this income tax would hit me personally. But like many in my position, I've got options. I can change my domicile. I can move my business. I can restructure my income to avoid it. That's the truth. And even this person that just testified has every option to do that. In fact, in just the past 2 weeks, I've heard from directly or listened or heard about over 50 couples who have already in the process of or soon to be changing their domicile out of this state, including one that you all have heard of, probably the loudest Democrat in Seattle named Nick Hanauer, who's changing his domicile. The people who truly get crushed, though, are Washington's 657,000 small business owners, farmers, contractors, doctors, tech founders who run pass-through companies. A great year, a big sale, or even a one-time payout pushes their personal income over $1 million, triggering a 10% hit they can't easily avoid. But if everyone in this room were forced to testify under a truth machine somehow, and we could all just sort of hear what was the honest thing, what we know is this is not about taxing the rich at all.
Thank you, Mr. Haywood. Your time is up.
In the same Senate Ways and Means Committee hearing today for executive session was Senate Bill 5974. This is also one of the most controversial bills that I've seen testimony on during this legislative session. This is one that would allow an unelected state board to remove an elected sheriff from office. So it's been voted out of committee with a do pass recommendation. This is the bill in which during the initial public hearing, which was the first week of the session, I think it came up like on day 3 of the legislative session, with a lot of very passionate testimony on both sides. Supporters of this bill say this is needed because we need more accountability for our elective sheriffs. Opponents say, wait a minute, the people have the right to vote in who they want to be their elected sheriff, and you should not have an unelected state board, decertifying sheriffs. So this was Pierce County Sheriff Keith Swank's very emotional testimony, which lit the internet on fire, I should say, actually made international headlines. We made some very provocative comments. So I want you to see a bit of Sheriff Swank's testimony in that hearing.
Some of my colleagues naively believe that they can come here and reason with you. They don't understand what's at stake here. They don't understand you like I do. You're going to pass this qualification bill for law enforcement, but you won't hold yourselves accountable. Therefore, I propose everyone who runs for an elected office go through a background check, a social media review, a polygraph, a psychological test. But Democrats, you won't agree to that because you have convicted felons who are elected officials here. I represent almost 1 million people, more than all of you combined here. Many more people. I was an elected chief of police. Being sheriff of Pierce County is much more than police work. Citizens reach out to me all the time regarding overreach of the government by you. Some say they finally have a voice because of me, and you want to silence it because I said transgender women are men. I said the truth. You want to give unelected bureaucracy the ability to decertify me and remove me from office because you don't agree with my speech. Just for the record, my deputies don't wear masks, but once you pass this law that they can't, I will not only allow them, but I will encourage them to do so just to see what you do. I don't recognize your authority to impose these controls over me, and when you try to remove me from office, thousands of Pierce County residents will surround the county city building in downtown Tacoma and will not allow that to happen. I hope it doesn't come to that, but I and they are prepared. Are you prepared? Finally, anyone who votes for this will never have an audience with this sheriff.
Now, in a second public hearing on this same bill, Mason County Sheriff Ryan Sperling told lawmakers that, elective sheriffs answer directly to the people. If the people don't like the way the sheriff's working, the people can boot him out of office. They can also, file a referendum to try to get him out of office before his term expires. So it's the people that the elective sheriffs are accountable. So I spoke with Mason County Sheriff Ryan Sperling just after his testimony in that hearing last week. Here's part of that conversation.
With any long bill, there's a lot of things that are in there that are almost hidden. And the biggest thing that we're concerned about is the authority of the local voters to pick their sheriffs. A lot of people are bringing up that sheriffs are afraid of qualifications or backgrounds. Every single sheriff in the state of Washington is accredited or certified through CJTC. Almost every single one of us has been through an extensive background, polygraph and psychological, and we want to make sure that those pieces stay in place, but this bill isn't the way to do that. If we don't have good, strong accountability within law enforcement, we draw the wrong person, and we know that, and we don't want the wrong people in our profession. So it's not that we're opposed to that, and a lot of people make it sound like we are. We're not. We're opposed to them undercutting the voters' ability to pick their sheriff. Sheriffs are different than chiefs of police. Chiefs of police work for an elected official that is a politician. The head of the state patrol works for the governor, who is a politician. The head of federal agencies work for elected officials. The sheriff is the elected official that answers directly to their citizens and represents their constituency. If that is taken away, the local voice is no longer going to be in law enforcement. It's going to be through another politician.
Do you think this is a direct result of the recent, conflicts with ICE, or what do you think is the real impetus of this?
I'm part of the Washington State Sheriff's Association, and we met with Representative Goodman and Senator Lovick on 2 different occasions, and they said this is the last piece of legislation that the Coalition for Police Accountability in 2021 wanted to push through. So this is what they're trying to do, is push this through back from 2021. So it may have something to do with what's going on now, but I think it's rooted back to 2021 and defund the police.
Okay, and a couple of other quick notes about some of the bills that have been voted out of committees and are likely coming to the floor this week as soon as Tuesday, because both the House and Senate have floor votes scheduled. We never know what the calendar of bills is until oftentimes minutes before they take to the floor. But a couple of the ones that I know our readers, our viewers are very interested in, 2 bills that are directed at immigration and customs enforcement. Now, Democratic sponsors are hoping to unmask federal officers with one of those bills, saying they can't cover their faces. Another anti-ICE bill says if you've ever worked for ICE after President Trump was sworn in for his second term, so going back to the beginning of last year, then you cannot ever work for a law enforcement agency in the state of Washington. Important to remind anybody watching this that Washington state has the lowest number of law enforcement officers per capita anywhere in the nation. And we've got massive recruiting efforts going on for Washington State Patrol, for Seattle Police, for Pierce County. A lot of the other large agencies, have had a difficult time recruiting because it's a blue state. Oftentimes somebody that wants to be in law enforcement might have a military background or otherwise not necessarily want to work for a blue state in law enforcement because of the liability concerns. And maybe just they don't think that the government officials in power have their back. So we're watching for both of those bills. And then I want to mention two more that are have passed out of the House Housing Committee, likely coming to the floor this week. One says local jurisdictions cannot remove homeless, often drug addicted, mentally ill people from the streets, from business storefronts, unless there's a shelter bed available immediately. So taking that local control away from jurisdictions is very controversial. That's one of the bills that's moving forward. Another one basically says we can put these low barrier, no barrier housing facilities where we move drug addicted homeless people into housing in the name of compassion. Don't force them to get clean, but get them off the streets. That bill says that you can put these anywhere, next to schools, next to playgrounds, next to, daycare centers. Very controversial, likely to be some very passionate debate, I'm told, when those move to the House floor. Again, likely to happen this week. So I know that was a lot I threw at you, but the income tax bill, we're watching for that. Watching for these other bills that are likely moving forward here in Washington. So thanks for watching another episode of Washington in Focus Daily. I'm Carleen Johnson, your Center Square Washington State Government reporter. Until tomorrow, have a blessed day.